Hi, it's Richard here from Intelligent Advisor IT Consulting with another in our long-running series about the example decision services. This week we're going to be looking at the environment decision service, which you can see here in the online documentation, and it's all about showing which environment you're in. It's a case where a really simple decision service gives us an opportunity to introduce a really interesting learning point or two. So the project itself is simply going to be a one-line rule. And that rule will return a value which could be test, production, development, UAT, SIT, whatever you want to call your environment. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I've downloaded the JSON file from the online help, and then I'll switch into my Oracle Intelligent Advisor Hub into the Projects tab, and I will import the project. As you can see here, I'm going to give it a name that is unique, and I'm going to make sure that I am importing the right one. There are no inputs, there's only one output, so I'm going to go ahead and import that right now. As you can see, it is the world's most simple decision service with only one rule. That's because this decision service was designed to be used as a reference in an Oracle Policy Modeling project. So if you didn't know that decision services could be referenced from Oracle Policy Modeling projects, you're about to find out how. I go into the Rules tab of my project, I connect to the same hub, and I need my password. And once I'm in there, I'm going to be able to set up my reference. The reference dialog appears, and I have a drop-down which lets me choose the decision service, which in my case is called RN Environment. But you can only choose it once it's either been saved for at least one version or deployed. So I'm going to go up here now, and I'll probably need to refresh this. And I'm going to go and select my RN decision service. It won't be listed as a deployment because I haven't deployed it yet, but it will be in the project list. RN deployment, where is it? There it is. RN environment, that's what I was looking for. There you go. RN environment, there we go. And you'll notice that there are no inputs and there's only one output, which is exactly what we expected. So I'm going to create an attribute here in OPM called the environment name. And now I'm going to just add a screen to my OPM project. And let's add the environment as part of a label. So I'll give it a name, and then I will add a new label, and we'll say the environment name is, and we'll add a percentage sign to use substitution. So I will then run the debugger, and the debugger should show up, and I should be able to see that even in debug mode, it has gone off to my Intelligent Advisor Hub and has retrieved the value that was in the table, that was in the rule block in the Intelligent Advisor decision service. And we can see here that it says it's mapped in from a decision service. So we are clearly getting that value from our decision service. If we're able to do something like that, there are probably a couple of other things that are well worthwhile talking about. Because knowing what environment you're in is one thing, but what about knowing the name of the deployment and the version of the deployment? These are functions that were added to Oracle Policy Modeling not too long ago, so I'm using this demonstration video as an opportunity to talk about them. So I'm going to add two new rules here, each of which will use one of those functions, the deployment name and the deployment version. So now that I've validated that, we'll go and check that we now have two new attributes, one called the deployment name, which I'm going to give also a public name for, and the deployment version, which is a number, however, but I'll also give it a substitution variable. So we'll add these in as a second label into our Oracle Policy Modeling project. So we'll debug and you'll get a nasty surprise, or perhaps not a surprise. It's simply to let you know that those two functions aren't going to work in the debugger because the project hasn't been deployed, therefore it doesn't have a deployment name or a version number. I'm going to try and deploy it, but I'm getting a warning, which is really important to know about, is that if you have a reference of a decision service in an Oracle Policy Modeling project and you want to deploy the Oracle Policy Modeling project, you need to make sure that the decision service has also been deployed. So I had to go back into the Oracle Intelligent Advisor Hub and deploy the decision service. Now I need to change the reference so that I'm referencing RN environment in the deployments list. The setup is exactly the same, so there's nothing I need to do there. I can go ahead now and deploy my Oracle Policy Modeling project, complete with a reference, using this nice and friendly name. You might think I'm out of the woods, but not quite. I'm going to deploy it in my favorite workspace, but I notice an error here on the hub saying that, look, the decision service you chose is in a different workspace to the Oracle Policy Modeling project that's just been deployed. And at the moment, there's a restriction on the decision service that doesn't let the decision service be referenced by something that's not in the same workspace. This is going to happen to you at some point, so you better get used to checking when you have a reference of a decision service in an OPM project. So I'm going to go over to the deployment, and I'm going to make sure that basically that they're either both in the same workspace or that the decision service has the restriction lifted. So I can say allow references from all workspaces. That would allow my two projects, the OPM project and the decision server project, to work together. Now when I launch the project after deployment, you can see I have the name and the version. That was pretty cool. One line of code in a decision service leads to a really interesting discussion. See you next time.